Frothy candelabra. Okay.
Please, no.
Welcome to this podcast. My name is Zoe Hertzberg. I am the host / interviewer. Today my guest is Aaliyah Knoll. Say
Hello.
hi.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So let's see where to start. So at school, I'm taking this class called Letters and Conversations with Gabrielle Seville. It's a class about, you could guess it, letters and conversations. And for our final, we were encouraged to have a conversation or something in our métier, which is like what we call our major, of examining a conversation that we need to have or a letter that we need to write. And I came up with this idea to interview Aaliyah, who's one of my childhood friends. I'll give you a little info about her in a second.
Thank you.
Well, actually, right now. So, Aaliyah.
Let's segue into it immediately.
Yeah, let's do it right now. Aaliyah and I are from the same hometown. We went to elementary school together just for a little bit. And then we went to the same junior high and we took the bus together and we sat together every day and took Snapchat selfies. Aaliyah taught me everything I know about being an influencer. She was like, you have to post a Snapchat selfie every single day. And I was like,
really?
You're right.
There are some things I keep in the past.
But yeah, then we did go to different high schools, but we've stayed in touch. I now go to school at the California Institute of the Arts, also known as CalArts, for acting, and I'm in my second year. And Aaliyah goes to the University of Southern California, USC.
Yeah,
timed.
Thank you.
For journalism.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, and this project came about because Aaliyah actually interviewed me for one of her classes. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that, Aaliyah?
Of course. I would love to. I would be ecstatic. So essentially, every student at USC is required to take Writing 150, and mine was centered on identity and diversity. And our last final project was to create an autoethnography, which is basically a research paper that sort of incorporates yourself into it. So it was more anecdotal. And mine was about the literature and representation I had growing up of mixed race people, of Hapa people. And so one of the requirements was to have an interview. And so I thought, I think I said this last time, who better to interview about being Hapa but Zoe Hertzberg? And so I talked to her. We had an excellent discussion on, how we feel about being Asian American, about being mixed race, and how we had no books that represented us growing up. So yeah, it was a great conversation.
Yeah, for sure. And for the audience reference, I am half Filipino, half American. So I'm first generation on my mom's side. She immigrated to the United States from the Philippines in her early 20s. And then my dad just like grew up in America. He's American.
Nice.
Aaliyah, what's your background?
Yeah, I identify as half Chinese American, half white. My dad is some mix of Hungarian, German, Jewish. So, but both of them were born and raised in the United States.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Off topic, can I take my Be Real super quick?
Yes, please take your Be Real.
We're in
about
the
to
kitchen.
Be so real right now. In the kitchen? This is me drinking out of a cup. Putting toast in the toaster.
Oh, that's perfect.
Doing, doing, doing. Perfect. So for our proposals, like I thought of this idea to interview Aaliyah, and kind of like flip the tables and ask her the questions I wanted to ask, and get to know more about her. And it was interesting when I proposed this project for my final, one of the like critiques was they thought that it was going to be really cool because it's a return letter as opposed to like a first letter, which a lot of the other finals are. So people are excited to see where this goes.
I love that.
It's
giving the pressure, but I love. Oh my gosh, it is. Which we actually discussed, right?
Letter.
Yeah.
I was actually just thinking about it right now. But was I thinking about like To All the Boys? Yes. But was I also thinking about historically my fear of that actor on film? Yes. Anyways, during the break, that's what I was thinking about. Anyways, proceeding on.
Of Laura Jane?
No, of what's his name? I always want to say Jordan Peele.
Oh,
Jordan Fisher. Jordan Fisher. Historically, I've said that I have a fear of Jordan Fisher, but I realized it's specifically on film. Like, I wasn't afraid of his Evan Hansen, but am I like terrified of him in 12 Ways? Like, a little bit. I don't know why.
He does love to ham it up.
His performance is so sparkly. Not in a bad way. I'm just like, it engages something in there.
Well, I thought you meant the white boy, like the main one.
Noah Centineo. No, I think that's his only good performance. Because I've watched his other movies and they're not as strong.
Yeah. Well, I was confused because I thought you meant Noah Centineo, and the words that came out of your mouth were Jordan Peele, and I was like,
two very different
things.
Who
did Get Out. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, his most recent movie was shot in Santa Clarita.
Oh, nope.
No, it was not.
That was.
But it was in like the fringes. I don't know if it's like Santa Clarita territory or like there's a different name for it, but it's like nearish here.
Well, it just sort of looks like desert mostly, I think.
The desert.
Based on the parts of the trailer that I watched, because I couldn't stomach all of it. But yeah.
Okay. Well, on that note, let's dive in. This is gonna be like a casual, fun, silly conversation.
Sure. I love to be silly. We love
being silly. Yeah, it's very much like a conversation, a dialogue, if you will.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So I wanted to throw in
giving LVP a little bit
dialogue.
We're gonna do a little scene for you. Okay.
I wanted to start with like a get to know you question, just for like the audience members who don't really know you very well to get to know you.
Who is listening to this? I didn't think about that.
Who is your audience?
Like
off this.
Yes, I'm asking you.
Yeah, the teacher. Maybe the students. Maybe my YouTube channel.
Boing, boing. Silly. Okay. I'll bring out some big words later. Just keep them in my back pocket. Okay, go ahead.
Exactly. Oh, wait, this reminds me of a movie, but have you seen Straight Up? Have we talked about this?
Yes, you've talked about it. Have you seen it?
No, it's my favorite movie. Okay, well, you know, like the one scene where she's like,
film?
It's one of my favorites.
Wow.
It's good. But that scene where she's like, whatever the word is, she's like, da 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 da, and then she's like, that's one of my smart people words, you know, that I just insert into conversation.
Yes. Anyways. Yes. They're in the library, right?
Yes. Excuse me, do you work here? You know how it
okay,
is.
Maybe I'll watch it again, because I don't remember being that enthralled by it, but I just dropped it in enthralled for those who didn't notice it first. But yeah, maybe I'll watch it again because I'm surprised that you enjoyed it that much, but we'll see.
It just hit on so many levels. The dialogue? Again, the dialogue.
Okay. Anyway, well, I have nothing else to do after this, so perhaps that.
Perfect.
Anyways,
my getting to know you question is what's one thing you're an expert at?
Oh my gosh. I actually think about this a lot because let me just tangent. I'll roundabout to the answer eventually. But basically, in third grade or in second grade actually, we all took the GATE test, right? And then it was like, oh, you're different, you're special and gifted, and my ego got so big. But mostly it just meant that I was a really odd child. Like I think everybody in that GATE program had like something weird that they just like hung on to. Like some people like dinosaurs, right? But I just know like a lot of facts about the American Girl doll brand. Like all the characters, like all the years, who their best friends are, like their siblings, like some stuff about like the Pleasant Rowland to Mattel brand changeover, because the old dolls have like Pleasant Rowland on the back of their head and the Mattel dolls don't. And like, oh my god, the girls of the year. So the answer is American Girl dolls, but not much else, because there's not a lot of room in my brain nowadays for like fun facts on anything. But yeah, that
was a great answer, and I don't have an answer prepared, so I'm just gonna ask you the next question because I'm interviewing you.
Wait, should I ask you back?
You don't have to.
Dialogue, what do you know a lot about?
Only if you desire to dialogue with me.
Sure.
What's one thing I'm an expert at? See, I'm like, I don't know. Like, my first instinct was like acting, and then I was like, I'm not an expert.
Ooh.
Whoa, 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 slow down.
I know, but you did like come into my dorm and like align my bear's body with the something or other method, and I thought that was impressive.
It's all for show. I just want someone to like clap for me.
Well, I would, because that was really cool, and so maybe that. Or I think we both probably have a lot of knowledge about like obscure, not a like musical theater, like in general.
Yeah, I think I would say, I mean, ugh, it's in the weeds, but I guess I would be like, I'm an expert at like memorizing things that I want to, or like, actually,
Mm,
I don't know. Sometimes I think that I'm really good at
sure.
names and faces, but then other times I just
Oh,
fully forget people's names and faces.
yeah. Maybe I need to
So,
expand what my definition of expert is, because I was just thinking of like hard facts, but like I I'm an expert overthinker. Like
oh, I'm
that's,
also that.
you know,
This.
there's sort of those things that isn't like rote memorization, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I'm gonna say final answer. I'm an expert at recognition because that actually like bing, I
Ooh.
can like recognize people's faces, I think, and I can recognize
Yes.
like roads, which I realize not everybody
Mm.
can do.
Yeah, I can't at all.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Great.
I once went to Van's photo and got so lost, like I ended up 2 towns over at a Home Depot.
What?
Okay, well, actually, more tangent, but do you remember before I went to college, I like recorded on that little like silver camera as we went to the
Yes.
mall, and okay, so I was going through that footage because
Mhm.
I want to post it or do something with it or whatever.
Yeah.
And so during that, I go to Van's photo, but like I don't have my phone because my mom is backing up photos before I go to college, so it's like at home. And so I like wrote out directions to Van's photo, but then I wanted to go get Starbucks. And by the time I had gotten to the Starbucks, like I didn't know what direction was what because I where was Van's photo? I don't know. So then I just kept driving in like what I thought was the correct direction, but it was definitely not. So then I stopped in a Home Depot parking lot, took out my dad's like Thomas guide, which is like a big map,
Yes. Yes.
and like started like trying to parse out like where I had ended up, and then eventually found my way back home, but just in like a very like humbling series of events where I didn't know cardinal directions at all, regular directions at all, like didn't even have the guts to just go up to a stranger and be like, "Hey, like can I use maps?" Cuz I think that'd be more embarrassing almost. But um yes, I think that's a talent for you definitely because I don't have it at all.
Yes. No, the Thomas guy, that's impressive.
Yeah, I think it helped
You
a little bit, which I was sort of, you know, felt proud of myself for, but situated in that, like, I was like, "I'm not proud of myself at all right now, like, all of this is terrible."
I mean, it's better to walk away and be like, "I read the Thomas guide," than to be like, "I walked away and I went up to a stranger and I said, 'Excuse me, can I use your Maps app?'"
Yes. Oh my god, because you know the clientele at Home Depot is not, like, friendly about that. They're, like, trying to get, rod for something, I don't know.
They're trying to get the rod.
Yeah.
Anyways, well, this is so great. I'm so glad to know that you're an expert on American Girl dolls, and
Yeah.
I'm an expert at recognizing things.
Recognition, yes.
Yeah, that'll be my expertise. And let's do
Perfect.
one more question to get to know you as we
Just
start to
one?
like.
Oh, what a short
You
short
know I love that
interview.
question.
Yeah.
um, what is one question that you've been grappling with recently?
Holy moly. Okay. I don't
It can be
know.
anything.
Can we get political on here?
Yeah, get
But
political.
there's just really no answer to it. That's the only issue.
That's fine.
Um, but are you gonna have to like do trigger warnings in this now? I'm sorry. Let me think of a
No,
different question.
no, you can no.
Okay.
If it's a question you've been grappling with, like bring it out.
Not actively, but it is always there. But anyways,
Mhm.
so this past semester I took a GE class called Social Analysis of Gender, and so we talked about feminism, and we talked about queer theory, and we talked about like intersectionality, and all these really great topics. And so we had one module that was on rape culture and sort of the issues of how intersectionality interacts with rape culture and how, like, historically and sort of in the media, when you're saying believe women, there's this undertone of believe white women, which I thought was
Mm,
fascinating. And so
interesting.
I will read this as a direct quote to you.
Ooh, we're getting some quote weaving within this podcast.
Yeah, because she just says it so well.
Okay, yeah.
Let's find, yeah. Okay. This is, her book is called, her name is, I'm gonna mess it up so bad. Amiya Srinivasan. Her book is called The Right to Sex. And so there is a question that she asks, which is, where did it go? I don't know where it went.
That's such a good question.
That's so silly. I love this question.
When she asks, where did it go?
Oh my, oh my God, that's the that's the question I'm grappling with. So where did it go? Sorry, it's not even. Oh my God, we have like 5 brain cells between us. I was really getting somewhere intellectual. I got it.
No,
I
you
found it.
were. Okay.
Anyways, cited on page 9. It
Yes.
says, okay, so specifically in court cases with men of color being prosecuted for like sexual assault of like white women, she asks, whom are we to believe, the white woman who says, oh, the white woman who said she was raped, or the black or brown woman who insists that her son is being set up
Mm.
by this like
Interesting.
carceral system that has, systemically hurt people of color, incarcerated men of color, that kind of thing. So that's where my brain was, and it's a question that I don't know the answer to, that you can't, I mean, yeah, I literally can't answer it. Like, there's no good way to go about that. So that's been stuck on my head because I don't like not having answers to things, and that feels like a really sort of big question that is not necessarily fixable in our like current criminal justice system.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one and that's a big one.
Thanks.
And thank
There
you for
there
your evidence.
Thank you. There are smaller ones. Like I question, like, if I'm like fulfilling the life I want to live, every single day, I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
can I do something today to make it better than it was yesterday? Like, am I just sort of, I think the general question, if I am fulfilled, like I'm like asking myself, like, do you feel good right now? Which is sort of an interesting one because
Yeah.
I sort of can't tell sometimes. I'm like,
Oh, yes.
am I
It's like,
good?
am I slaying or am I destroying myself?
Yes. And it's
Yeah.
weird that I feel like I know myself very well, but I also don't know how I feel sometimes.
Oh, yes. No, I feel like this is very, very topical.
Yes, maybe I
Um,
should have led with that instead of this, like,
no, but I like both points because I guess it shows the brain can be thinking about many things at once.
oh my God, the brain is always thinking.
Oh, the
The
brain
the
never
girls
turns
the
off.
girls are going.
I'm glad.
The
Inside
girls
out.
are the cylinders in my, yes. Oh my gosh,
Hmm.
yeah. Inside
Yeah, the
out.
girls are going.
Yeah,
Exactly.
obviously.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm not great at transitions, so
Oh,
let's
sure.
transition.
We'll do like doo-doo-doo-doo-doo,
Oh
and then
yeah. I was just thinking of like making the dialogue seem like it just like flowed in.
oh, on the
But
topic of rape culture, like what
no. But yes. But no. No, just kidding, just kidding.
maybe
Um,
on the topic of like pondering about yourself.
yeah, no, I did have a good one, but then I decided to make it unnatural for comedy purposes.
Oh,
And so I
sorry.
can
And
go
now
back
we're
to the
just,
first question.
oh
Because
my gosh,
it
yeah.
flowed into the second question, but I want to go back and ask the first question
Oh my
as
God,
we
of
start to like
course.
delve into this
Yeah. Yeah.
dialogue.
Oh, yeah. Mm.
I wanted to talk about, just because we grew up in the same hometown, similar schools,
Mhm.
similar friend groups. Like we kind of
Sure.
have some core members that like rotate between us, or like we
Yes.
share. Why was I thinking of like a bond?
We pass them back and forth. Like we're like, You get
Here
Francis
you
for the
go.
week. Like, I'll take Kennedy back.
And I'm like, thank you. Please take her off my hands.
That crazy girl. Yeah. Yes.
No, yeah. What's is it? I don't think it's covalent bond, but it's like the one where they share,
Oh, do
you
not
know.
ask me. Oh, please. No.
I'm
No,
2 years out of high
no,
school. Like, I don't remember that.
no. No.
But in
I have
theory,
no
it's
clue.
that.
Yes.
We share the bond.
Mhm.
Um, and one thing that like struck me in your interview was how you were saying like you thought you would interview me because you thought we would have the same experience, and like the whole point is that we don't have the same experience, blah 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 blah
Yes.
blah. But this conversation is like around Asian American identity, but also like the whole conversation is giving Asian American identity because we're like two Asian American people like talking together. We're
Yeah.
passing the Bechdel test. Um,
Oh, we are.
Also,
Excellent.
I saw a new article about the Duvernay test, Ava DuVernay, but then I didn't finish reading the article.
Oh.
And I
Oh.
wanted to read it so I could bring it up, but
Can
fail.
I Google it right now?
You can try. You can. But yeah, but anyways, I
Fascinating. Okay.
maybe I wanted to see if you wanted to discuss what I wrote down was like the Asian American topic, our hometown in a snapshot. How you feel like your
Whoa.
identity
Yeah, for
was in our
sure.
hometown,
That's
anything
an
on that kind of
excellent
thing.
title. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you want to speak on it?
Oh my God. You didn't ask a question, did you?
Well, you said okay, like you were ready to answer.
Yeah, I liked that. I liked that title. I here, give me I need a framework of sorts. I can't.
The question is like how, maybe like you could break it down into like what how did you feel like your identity was received? Maybe like a key moment where you
Yeah.
felt like, oh, I am mixed race, I'm Asian. Um,
Yeah.
in any way that your like identity felt forward and important in
Yes.
specifically that like small town experience.
Yeah. Well, I think to reiterate some of what we already talked about when I interviewed you, but I think um our experiences are different in part because my mom is second generation, but also because I think I'm more white passing than you. And also, I realized I didn't have that conversation with you. I had it with Bella when we were arguing who's more white passing, because
Oh,
that's a more equal. That's
actually,
an
I feel like
equal.
I remember this. Like
Yeah.
when we were at Francis's house, and it was like you, me, Francis, and Bella.
Yes. Yes.
And I
So
remember Bella being like, "I'm white passing,"
I know, and
or
I was like,
something
no,
along those
you look
lines.
more Asian or whatever. Like, I just wanted to clear that up because we did not have that
Yes.
conversation, and like,
Okay.
I do think I am more white passing, but I think it was sort of more in relation to how people would perceive me and my mom together. Like, I think on my own, I think I just was like a little looked like a white kid, I think. Which is
Hmm.
just like maybe I've grown out. I think I look more Asian now, or perhaps just like I don't quite know. But people whenever we were together, they're like staring or they're like, wow, like your daughter is so pretty. Or like when I
Mm.
was really little, there was a specific instance where my mom told me about this later, obviously, but was like, oh yeah, like the guy at the donut shop um said something to her that assumed that she was my nanny
Ooh.
instead of my mother. And this was
Ugh.
in Los Angeles. Like this wasn't even in our little small town, but she came home and told my dad and was like really shook up by that, you know. So I
Mm.
think yeah, and so I don't know. It was sort of I think didn't like really become a thing for me until I probably got to like the 3rd grade because my 3rd grade's like Hermosa Drive was more like my class was more diverse than Rolling Hills, and I think I like just interacted with more people, more Asian people, like a lot, like the GATE program, the yellow math group, like the things they go hand in hand. Um, I don't know who's listening to this, but the yellow math group, our class theme was minions. And so there, I have to,
No,
so
I'm
it
glad
doesn't
that you're
sound
recapping
terrible.
it.
But there are like yellow minions and then there are evil purple minions. And so we had two math groups, and the higher one was the yellow math group. But it was comprised of me and like half the Asian kids in my class who all had like outside math tutors, like they did Kumon and that
Come
sort of
on,
thing.
exactly.
And so we were all just sort of in this yellow math group, and so she would be like, "Okay, it's the yellow group's turn to, like, learn about, I don't know, long division or whatever you're doing in 3rd grade." Um but yeah, I think just, like, I definitely, like, kindergarten to 2nd grade, which are very formative years, like, I definitely was just, didn't necessarily perceive, like, race. I didn't see race, actually, but
Yeah, you didn't see
just
color.
yeah, but in a way, I really don't think I did, like, it just wasn't on my mind, but I think,
Mhm.
just interacting with, you know, lots of, other little kids. I don't really know where I'm going with this,
Yeah,
but,
yeah. Can I ask a follow-up question on
yes,
this?
of course,
Do
please,
you
because I
feel
have
like
no direction.
I'm directionless. Do you feel like being around, like, other Asian kids made you realize your identity more? Or being around, like, because, like, in the in-group kind of, I guess? Or,
Yeah,
like, being with white friends being like, "I stand out." Like, do either of those experiences, like, ring a bell in you?
sure, sure. I think probably around Asian American kids more, I was sort of like, "Oh, my mom looks like you, but I don't." So it was this, like,
Mm.
dissonance where I'm like, "I know I'm, like, technically a part of this, but also not really." Um,
Mhm.
so I think that was it. I don't know. Again, like, I have the colors of a white person, like, I know that very well. So, like, I don't think there was too many moments when, like, that was necessarily an issue. Like, I I don't think I've experienced racism or, like, microaggressions for being Asian American, like, I think I've
Mm.
experienced them for being Hapa specifically, but I don't think
Mm.
that, like, my Asian American identity was challenged by itself.
Mm.
Like, there was
Okay, I
sort of this
understand.
separate, like yeah, I think it was more on the, in the vein of, like, fetishization, like, exoticizing my
Mm.
identity versus, like,
Challenging.
racism. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Would you like to expand on your experience
My
in our
experiences in our
dialogue?
hometown. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. My experiences in our hometown, I mean, yeah, we've talked about this again. I don't think I also didn't see color as a child. Um, Even though I grew up like doing theater, this is like recap
Mhm.
for you, but it's for the audience. Um, of like they would like not colorblind cast families. So like the mom would be Asian and the son would be black, but then his brother was also like a ghost, so pale white,
Is that
and
who is that?
yes, it is. You know it
We're doxing everybody.
is. Yes, this is also a funny side fact, but to wear a mismatched Crocs. They both wore one that was blue and one that was green because they swapped them. And they used to look the same as kids too. As they got older, they looked different, but
Wait, I'm sorry, who? I don't know who the other one is.
well, he looked like
Oh my god, were they related?
no. So yeah, it's like that meme that's like such and such actress just found out that such and such other famous actor is her cousin, and then it's like white people moment. It was like that.
Okay,
Anyways,
sure.
but yeah, I mean, definitely like the moment that I wrote my college essay about, everyone knows this infamous moment when like a director made a note about me in a casting for Legally Blonde about like not being able to be cast as the lead for quote not having the look of a lead. And then I was like, it's because I'm Asian. And then I realized that like maybe she also had a race problem with me. I don't know. We had a tough relationship. That woman was always trying to get me to stand in the back, even though I was very small.
Oh my god, you were quite small.
She was like,
That's
anyways, there was one time at graduation, we were at graduation practice, and she was like, I was standing in like the middle, and she's like, Zoe, are you gonna wear heels to the performance? And I was like, no, I'm gonna wear the shoes that I have on. And then she's like, ugh,
shut
I have to put you
up.
in the front. And she like moved me to the front.
Oh my
Anyways,
god. I just saw her recently in passing. I didn't say a word to her. But her daughter was in a play at high school that I went to go see because one of my friends was in it.
Yeah.
And she was
Wow.
there, and I was like, this is, she
Traumatizing.
obviously would not remember who I was at all, but I was like, I must avoid her at all costs. Like, I
Yeah,
could look her dead in the eyes for like 5 minutes and she wouldn't remember. But
that's terrifying.
yeah,
She's not an
her daughter
expert
was
at
great
recognition.
though. No, she's not. We can't all know street signs or Aaliyah's face. Like, we just don't have it. It's not
You
possible.
can't have both.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think it's actually interesting that we both wrote our college essays on like Asian American identity or like Hapa identity. I don't really know. I was sort of spitballing, but yeah,
No,
my
yeah,
Common
no,
App. Yeah.
you're
Should I
coming out.
explain my Common App?
Please,
Let me
please
just
do.
explain it real quick.
Yeah, please tell us how you got into USC.
Basically, yeah, you should title this "How She Got into USC." Stats, extracurriculars. Like, do you know those videos?
Yes,
Like,
yes, I do. Yes, you
oh
know
my
I do.
gosh. Yeah, because I might upload my like college reactions too, because I was editing that. But just like
Yes.
as like a little vault thing, because like nobody cares anymore. But
Oh, I care.
oh,
I
oh my God.
care.
I am screaming in that. I forgot that I was literally screaming. There was a couple where I was crying. I'm like, I didn't know I had this in me.
The actor in you.
Yeah, it like came out immensely. But as I was saying, my Common App essay was just genuinely about being Hapa and about how I read Crying in H Mart, which is an excellent book by Michelle Zauner, aka Japanese Breakfast, who is also like, I think she's half Korean and half white, even though she's called Japanese Breakfast, which I didn't understand at all. But yeah, it's like about her growing up, and it's mostly about her mom and like her mom passing away, and like feeling it's a great memoir. But it was just like really interesting the way that she sort of like parsed out her Hapa identity, like just so like in a very straightforward manner. And so it was just very relatable, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I've never had this sort of representation. It feels so full, like it
Mm.
feels very fulfilling." Um,
Mhm.
and so I read that, and then there was also this like campaign, sort of nationwide, but specifically like Francis and I, quote unquote, ran it for our district. I feel like I have to say quote unquote when I
No,
do
it's
that
no one's gonna fact check
because
this. You did run
no,
it.
I know, but like if I'm doing air quotes in here, they
Uh-huh.
can't hear it on the podcast, so I've got to sort of
You can dictate. You could say Francis and I
bridge
air
the
quotes ran it
yeah,
end air quotes.
ran it
Uh-huh.
in our district called Diversify Our Narrative, which specifically was to add more racially diverse books to the English curriculums in our high school. Um, and this was like, you know, August, September 2020, right after like the Black Lives Matter protests. And so it felt like I was sitting there and sort of doing nothing during this very like global racial reckoning. And so I was like, what can I do? I can add more diverse books to this incredibly white English curriculum. And
Mhm.
so we got like hundreds of petition signatures. We talked to the principal. We talked to like organizers at like the elementary schools and stuff. And so it was a very like sort of formative things that I did. And so I
Yeah.
like bridged those and was like, wow, I really, really loved Crying in H Mart because it was this representation that I never had. And so everybody deserves that kind of representation. And I think that's why Diversify Our Narrative was so like inspiring to me, because it felt like something that I had finally had. And I'm like, everybody deserves this like very formative moment. So that was
Mhm.
my Common App. Um,
And then what was your GPA?
at the end, what
No,
was
no,
it?
no,
It
no.
was
You don't
actually
have to.
it was very high. Let me clickbait your people. I really think weighted it was like 4.8 or
Oh
something
my
like that.
gosh. I mean, you were valedictorian.
Oh my gosh, really?
This.
I forgot about that one.
No, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was, I
Oh,
guess. Oh my gosh, yeah. What? That's crazy that you said that. I wasn't thinking about that at all. Um, but yeah, and so I don't know. It just I remember like it was really I was like struggling to write my Common App so much. And then one day, life hack actually,
mm,
valedictorian gives college tips. I sorry. I sat down with like a yellow legal pad and a
mm,
pencil and just
mhm,
started writing. And then it
mm.
came to me like I no, genuinely, but I was like, this is so crazy. Like this only happens in movies. Like the writer finally gets off their computer and picks up a paper and a pen and it just comes to them. But it literally did. And so, and yeah, I think I just wrote about, like, something that felt like I felt really not passionately about, but, like, felt I think is the best way to
Mm,
put it. But I think I've
mhm.
always sort of just, like, thought about identity, and I think, like, reading gave me a new perspective. So, yeah, I forgot the
Yeah.
question entirely.
No,
Um,
this was great. Let's continue on this topic because I feel like this will
mm,
transition great again.
okay,
Ding
okay,
ding ding
okay, I'm
ding.
ready.
But yeah, no, speaking like my relationship to college apps was like extremely traumatic. It was like
Oh,
actually
no.
terrible.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
because our teacher actually had us like do these like papers where you basically had to like write out like what makes you unique, what makes you like sellable
Oh,
as a college student.
oh my
Of course, in
gosh, yeah.
retrospect, like I see it way worse than probably it was in the moment. But it was like, hey, like write down you like BIPOC. Are you poor? She didn't say are you queer because we cannot say the queer. Don't say gay.
No.
But like, are you poor? Um, are you a person of color? And then
Are
she
you?
really was like, are you? We're doing the gay hand for the
Oh, by
people
the
on
way,
the
guys,
by the way.
for yeah.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, she very much was like trauma dump, and like write all the worst things that happened to you.
Yeah.
Because like that'll make them feel bad for you and like let you in and show what you conquered, and then they'll give you money because you're poor and sad. you know? Um, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, this is like, well, this isn't funny.
It's
But
just more stuff about being poor and sad just over
but
and
it
over
was
and
like
over.
we read the first like college essay. She called it an exemplar. Um
Okay.
yeah, we read a college essay exemplar, and the topic was basically the story of a girl who came home after school one day and her mom told her that her dad was killed by the mob.
Stop.
And then she was like, how do I continue when my dad's been killed by the mob and I didn't know he was even in the mob?
The um
And then like the teacher had the girl like come into class like on Zoom because it was Zoom school,
oh, of
um
course.
and talk to us about how like she's a successful cheerleader now at like Cal State. And I was like, it did send me into a full crisis because I was like, my dad's not in the mob, my dad's not dead, why can't no, just I'm just joking. But it was it was like Aaliyah just put us in a coffee shop. I'm
Yeah.
not laughing at the girl's dead dad.
Zoom coffee.
Zoom
Sorry.
coffee.
Sorry.
But yeah, it was like very intense.
Yeah.
And again, a white woman as the
Yeah.
teacher.
Oh,
Um,
I'm I am sorry. I apologize on behalf of that
on white women
white
everywhere.
woman. Yeah.
On behalf of white
As
women
a white
everywhere.
passing woman, yeah, I apologize for all of the real ones.
Thank you so much. This is reparations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, but that brings me to like, how do you feel about what I wrote down again? Tired of toting around your identity and facing burnout. That's the section of this, the title of this
Yeah,
next section. Like toting around your identity as someone who like identifies as white
totally.
passing.
Totally.
Um,
That's such a
and
weird I wouldn't
I
call
mean, it
that
is
one of my
silly.
identifiers, but it is just true. Like, I'm not like Aaliyah, she, her, white passing. Like, that would never
I'll introduce you that
yeah.
way. This is Aaliyah, she, her, white passing. Okay.
Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, I actually have been thinking about this too, kind of a lot, but because this obviously my Writ 150 class, writing 150 was about identity and diversity. I wrote three like long essays about being Hapa. Like, well, not all of them were about being Hapa, but all of them referenced it, talked about it, like were related to it in some way. And so at the end of it, like by the time I was editing my final paper, I was like, I am so done about thinking about my identity in this critical way. Like, I know that I'm Hapa. I know that I'm still struggling with it and like trying to like find, the best way to like represent myself, whatever. but I'm just like, I'm so over, like, writing these silly little words about how I had no representation growing up. Like, it literally, you know, I don't know, like any subject, you sort of just get tired of it. And so I was thinking about that. And then I was thinking, like, is this some sort of privilege that I don't quite grasp? That
Mm.
I'm like, oh, I'm so done of like talking about my identity. Like,
Mm.
for, I don't know, a not white passing person of color, if there
Mhm.
is no, like, end to talking about your identity when you don't want to. And so then I was like,
Mhm.
"Okay, damn. I guess I'll just write this essay and finish it and
In honor of
do my
not
part."
white passing people everywhere, I
Yeah.
will write this essay.
In solidarity, I'm gonna finish this essay and get a great grade on it, you know?
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, it got tiring, but in a way where I'm like, is it did it did it get tiring in a way that was similar to, like, everybody who, like, asked their Black friend what they thought about George Floyd, or did it get tiring in a way where, like, a white person is tired of learning about, you know, uh, what's it called? White
Mm.
fragility or, like,
Mm.
racism in general. So, like,
Yeah.
I
Mm.
didn't know which kind of tired I was. Um, but I knew that I was tired. I was exhausted. Like, I don't know. I think, um, it was it's important to, like, grapple with your identity, but at some point,
Mm.
I'm like, I'm done, like, creating this, internal struggle for myself in a way.
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting way of, like, equating those 2 struggles. I've never thought
Yes.
about it like
Not
that.
equating them,
Well,
not
no, not
equating them,
equating, but, like,
but,
asking
like,
the question, like,
separating, yeah,
you know, am I
like,
tired
contrasting them.
yeah.
Yes.
Am I tired as a person of color or am I tired as a white person?
Yeah,
That I
and
think is
as
interesting.
somebody who's half and half, like, that's I got nothing. I got absolutely nothing. I don't have a good answer
Yeah,
for that one.
yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that's very interesting. This doesn't exactly connect, but an interesting thought that I was having when you were like talking about representation.
Sure.
And I do think about like, and I did write a paper also for this class about like my experience I watched Accidental Death of an Anarchist, which is like an Italian play that has
Oh.
many
Oh,
adaptations,
yes.
but they did it at school.
Yep.
And our adaptation was like a modern American adaptation. So it had like American jokes. And then like the main character who plays like an anarchist who's in the police office, um, he has like a lot of monologues, but he would have these monologues where he'd be like, the police are terrible and they're out in the streets hurting black people and like da 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 and like black people. And then like you look across the stage and you're like, nobody in this cast is black. Like how interesting to
Yeah.
like have these white people be like dun 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 dun,
Yes.
and in like waving the flag of like we are progressive. Um,
Yeah.
but it also made me think about like, oh, so the point of that was that it was like, oh, and I do wonder this, like, do white people ever feel awkward when we're like, yay, go people of color? Because they're like, that doesn't include me. Not that like we need to be like sensitive, but yeah, but it's a double-edged
Sure.
sword.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I was thinking, when you were talking, this is terrible, but I was thinking about white representation and how most
Okay.
representation is white representation.
Correct.
And then it reminded me of another thing that I was thinking about, which is how like on stage specifically, like the word man can be gender neutral, but the
Right.
word woman is never gender neutral.
Yeah.
And how like a white character almost feels like free of race,
Sure.
but like a black or Asian character will never feel that way.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yes. Well, actually, that I think we genuinely already talked about this, right? But
Mm.
sort of that I went to, like, woke summer camp, and so they were like, "We're gonna talk about implicit bias, like, close your eyes. You're walking
Oh
through a
yeah.
park, you see a child, playing baseball, you see 2 people watching children on the swings," like, and so you're supposed to, like, filter out whatever you have in your brain, and so then I was like, "Oh, this is a little white male child playing baseball." Mostly because, again, that was brother plays baseball.
Yes.
But just I think I totally agree, sort of this idea that like the not like the default or like the factory setting is like that's a white person, but also I think
Mm.
the idea that, like, I think with more representation and diversity, obviously the characters that have historically been white can now be played by people of color, but I think, like, it wouldn't to go the other way would literally just be blackface or, like, yellowface, but there
Mm, mhm.
I don't know. It's a good point, but I don't quite like, clearly they're different, right? But I don't quite understand why.
Yeah. No, it's like it is interesting to think about.
Yeah. That's your question that you're pondering, I guess.
I guess that is the question I'm pondering.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
and I totally had something to say about the other stuff that you said, but I don't about white people just, like, talking about people of color. Oh, okay, there are all the thoughts. The thoughts are
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
back.
yeah.
First of
It's all
all,
coming back.
is that, um, if as people of color, we're like, "Yeah, go us," and they're like, "Oh, I'm sad." Like, I think I sort of or, like, feel, like, excluded. I feel that way about, like, being queer and straight people just being like, "Ally," like, I
Mm, yeah.
do they feel awkward? Like, genuinely, I was talking with Dylan about this, but just, like, what do, like, genuinely, like, non-homophobic straight people think about gay people? Like,
Mm.
what is in their brain if they're
Mhm.
like, "I'm not homophobic," like, what is in your mind when you're thinking about queerness? Because that is a fascinating thing to me.
Yeah.
What
No, yes.
what's going on?
My default setting is like I think everybody's queer or they just don't know yet.
Yes,
Or like they
exactly.
haven't come to terms with it. So like I haven't
Exactly.
even pondered that. Yeah.
Exactly. But just, like, if somebody's genuinely just, like, heterosexual, if that's possible.
Exactly.
But, like
They say everybody's a little bit gay.
yeah. But, um but yeah, just, like, what is in their mind if you're, like, not a bigoted person, like, I genuinely believe there are heterosexual people who are not bigoted, like, that seems I don't know, but just, like,
Mathematically, we would hope that would be
mathematically, there's
true.
gotta be a couple, but just,
Yeah.
like, what's up there? Because that's you know, like, if if white people are, like, well, I guess, every white person is supposed to be like, "Well, I am racist." Like, there's, like, this expectation or something, but, like, if you're not a bigot, like, what is in your brain when you think about people of color or when you, like, think about a marginalized group that have historically been oppressed by your ancestors? Our ancestors. I'm
Our
literally
ancestors.
um, what did you
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess this also like subgenre for this question is like
Sure.
the idea of like not belonging and being kind of in like our own group.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I do know people that are also like half Filipino, half white. I know
Yeah.
two,
Okay.
Kennedy and
Nice!
so like I guess you do find other people. But just kind of
Yeah.
this like idea of like you don't belong with like the full Asian people and you don't belong with the
Yeah.
full white people. And like
Yeah.
I think we've talked about this about like it feels weird to be like I'm a person of color and like the person of color perspective is, you know.
Yeah, personally would never in my life say that because I like physically I don't have the of color. You know what I mean? Um yeah, in fact today I work at like the student what's that called? Student services desk like for the journalism school.
Yeah.
But anyways, there is a woman who is like Chinese, like came like
Mhm.
immigrated here from China and was talking about because somebody like brought snacks because the US China Institute is the office below us. And so they gave us snacks and she was like, "Oh, this is this herbal tea or whatever." Um, and then she was like, "Oh, but" because I've told her before that my mom is Chinese, and then she was like, "Oh, your mom is Chinese, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then she asked if my mom still like spoke Cantonese, and I said no. And then she was like, "Oh, so like she's not really Asian, is she?"
No.
And I was like, "I mean, she is. She was just born here, and she was the youngest of 7 kids. And I think my grandparents, tried to teach um, some of her siblings Chinese, but like by the time they had my mom, like they were both, I think, working 2 jobs and like very busy, and it just wasn't like, you know, high priority to like, you know. Anyway, so then she was like, "Oh, well, she's basically a
No
white woman.
snacks for
Like,
you.
like no, but it was genuinely like, I was like, if my mom was here, like she would feel so, actually my mom would
Mm,
know how to deal with it. But my mom would feel, I feel like she would feel like, invalidated. Like she's literally a Chinese American woman and this lady is just here like, maybe I felt invalidated on her behalf because
yeah,
my mom, she teaches Asian American studies for a living. Like she
yeah.
is very knowledgeable on all this kind of stuff. And so I was just like, this is a strange thing. And I completely forgot the question, but if can you repeat the question because I really did have a point with this.
Oh, well, I think we were talking about like feeling in between two communities.
Ah, yes. So then I was like, well, I'm clearly like less Asian than this woman, less Asian than my mom, but also I do feel like I have ties to being Asian American. So it is
Mm,
this weird limbo where like I don't think her name is Susan. I'll dox Susan real quick.
okay,
But like
Susan.
I'll obviously never be in group with Susan, but like I don't know. I'm not a white person and I think like just almost calling myself a white person also feels like a form of like internalized
Mm,
racism in a way where I'm like, let me
mhm,
dance myself from this Asian identity. Like, let me get as far
mhm.
away from being Chinese as possible. But that's like so wrong. Like, if that's how I grew up, like sort of being white passing and like associating with my white identity, like I do think that's a form of like internal loathing almost for this like
Mm.
Asian side of myself. So it is this weird middle ground where I don't think calling myself 100% one thing is like correct in any way. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, I
yeah,
mean, I like to have friends like you. I like to have friends like Kennedy just because it's like, it's not even that we have to have these conversations all the time, but it's like there,
yeah.
So
Base level of
uh,
understanding.
that's what I got for you. I know I'm
Yeah,
Bella and I don't really talk at all, but
I don't either. Don't remember the last time I had a conversation,
oh boy, oh
but
boy.
it's okay. We can't go on that side tangent. This is a
Yeah, no.
public podcast. Um, yeah, yeah. I kind of want to bring this up just based off of like your piece about like identity and representation, and it hit me that Lara Jean is like canonically in the movie Hoppa,
Yeah, yeah,
but the actress is not.
yeah.
No,
No,
which is interesting because
it's
not to be
interesting.
like, oh, it should be played by a Hoppa person, but it like made
No,
me read
it is
her as like
interesting.
full Korean.
It is interesting. No, that dad is white. Her living parent is just like a white guy.
Yeah,
But I do
yeah.
think the people who play her siblings are Hapa, I think.
I definitely
I'm
feel like
not
the
positive.
youngest sister has to be.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the older one looks like. But also Jenny Han wrote Summer I Turned Pretty.
Yes, I
And
haven't
so
seen it.
that main character is Hapa as well, I think.
Okay, yeah.
I'm literally just judging her based off what she looks like, but I think she's Hapa.
Slay.
Um yeah. But it, yes, I know. Because when you were talking about it, I was like, I don't think you've read the books To
I
All the Boys
haven't.
I've Loved Before. So when I was writing about it in my essay, I did make it sound like you knew that she was Hoppa, but I had this
Thank you.
like base understanding that like you didn't
I
know.
didn't. Well,
um,
I guess I intuitively knew, but I didn't like top brain know.
yeah. But I think either way, like it was either Asian American representation or Hopper representation that we had never had before as the romantic lead. So
Yeah. 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 And we've discussed like half American actors like that jock from Riverdale and like da 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 da. So I don't
yeah,
know if we really need to like reprise that, but like blah 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 blah. People are like, you're not Asian enough to be Asian. They're like, you're not white enough to be white.
yes, I
Right.
know. I think it's interesting that you're so like centered in the theater space that like people are having those conversations just because I don't think mainstream like I really haven't heard a lot about
Really?
that. Yeah, but I also I mean I don't know what I think about. I don't really have that many thoughts on that actress playing Lara Jean. Like
Oh
I
yeah. I mean,
I
yeah.
think she did a good job. Like I don't
I
really
agree.
know if I'm supposed to be like, "Oh my god, like I'm so offended right now." Um
No, like
but
there's suspension of
yeah.
disbelief.
Yeah.
Like, do those
And,
sisters look related? Like, do they look like they're from the same mom? Like, no, they do not. But, like, are they all
No.
great for the role? Yes.
Sure.
So,
And
like,
then
the
also,
allowance.
I'm sort of like, historically, again, it's literally just been white people in movies, TV shows, everything. So, like,
Mhm.
I kind of think, I think, like, well, this was sort of the discussion, the Eleanor and Park thing.
Yes, yeah.
Are you in tune with
Oh,
with
yes,
that
you know
conversation?
yes. Yes,
But
yes,
it
yes.
is just like, how good does representation need to be for us to be like, "Thank you for this?" Like, even
Mhm.
if Lara Jean wasn't perfect representation, even if
No, yeah.
she was supposed to be Hapa, instead she was, like, just, Asian, like, am I supposed to be offended or, like, not supported or something? Which is sort of different than the Eleanor and Park situation, but it is just, like, some representation is, like, better than nothing, usually,
Yeah.
unless you're, like, fetishizing your Asian male, like, romantic lead and, like, giving him the name Park for no reason, and, like, there are all these lines about Park being this, like, little, like, cute little,
They just be like,
you
"He was
know.
wearing eyeliner today. He looked kind of sexy."
Oh. But, yeah, that book was kind of weird anyways, because I know Rainbow Rowell is, like, she's obviously not an Asian American male, like, she's closer to what Eleanor's description is, but some of the descriptions of Eleanor were also, like, sort of weird and, like, fetishy and, like, in a simultaneously fatphobic way. So,
Yes, no, yes.
that book just doesn't hold up, even though I really did like it at some point.
No,
Um,
yeah, the Rainbow
yeah,
Rowell era.
I know. Okay, my watch finished, but I do my dryer. There's
Okay,
more.
yes.
There's more. But anyways, I do have more thoughts about this because I do think did not get, like, I had an interview and I don't think I think I didn't get the position because I was um being positive about Rainbow Rowell. So I do want to come back and tell you that story. But I do need to go get my stuff out of the dryer. So,
Okay, perfect. Should we pause the recording? Like, should we break it up into 2 parts?
sure.
Okay.
We'll end it 1 hour exactly.
Yes, listeners, we're now going to take a short intermission while Aaliyah goes and gets her laundry out of the washer for like the 3rd time today.
Probably the
Aaliyah,
4th.
I hope your laundry is clean,
Thank
and
you.
I
I hope it
can't
doesn't
wait
have
to see you after the
puke
break.
stains.
Me as well.